talking about regulars quite often, and I'm actually going to as well. So for all you regulars out there, you know that tonight's sermon is called the Prediction Sermon here at Temple Israel. It is the last Shabbat of 2019, and traditionally, the rabbi giving the sermon on this final Shabbat makes predictions about what the coming year will bring. As many of you might also know, whenever I'm given this task, I respectfully decline. Some of you have heard why, but for those of you who don't know, I'll give you the short version. Years ago, more than a decade, we were entering an election year, much like we are now, but far less contentious. I predicted that we would elect a new president. At the time, George Bush was running for a second term, and I truly meant no disrespect. I meant to convey that the election would choose a president for a 4-year term. I truly did not mean any different, or that a different president would be elected. I was a very green rabbi, and if you know me, you know I would not have done that. Now, well, okay. So that prediction did not go well. It was the one and only time someone actually shouted back at me from the congregation. Yeah, he indeed took my prediction to mean that Bush would lose and a new president would be in the Oval Office. So I hope now you can understand why I shy away from making these kinds of predictions. But it's okay, because this is one of those times when the Torah swoops in and conveniently saves the rabbi. This Shabbat, we read the portion of Miketz. It's one of my favorites because it's the portion that we read about Joseph interpreting Pharaoh's dreams. No one in all of Egypt can make sense of his dreams, but rumor had it there was a prisoner that could do miracles. Joseph was brought before Pharaoh and put his skills to the test. Turns out his dream interpretations were actually predictions. The Pharaoh dreamt of 7 skinny, scrawny cows rising from the Nile to devour 7 fat, healthy cows. Pharaoh then dreamt that 7 sheaves of grain, withered and thin, devoured 7 sheaves that were healthy and plentiful. For both dreams, Joseph made a prediction. The 7 fat, healthy cows and the 7 healthy sheaves represent 7 years of plenty in Egypt. Food will be abundant. However, the 7 scrawny cows and the 7 withering sheaves represented 7 years of famine that will follow the 7 years of plenty. Joseph said that Pharaoh's dreams were ordained by God as a warning and an impetus to prepare for years of famine. Through Joseph's dreams interpretations, or predictions, he ended up saving Egypt. Pharaoh listened to Joseph's instructions to stockpile food during the years of plenty in order to sustain Egypt through the years of famine. Pharaoh was so taken by Joseph's abilities, he made a prisoner into a prince and declared that the Spirit of God was with Joseph. That's really saying something coming from a polytheist. So clearly, dream interpretation is as old as time. There are some common dreams that most of us have had that are thought to have certain meaning, like your teeth falling out. Anyone have, no, me? Okay, so I've had that. That is commonly thought to represent the loss of something, a job, a person, or even self-confidence. Or the dreams where you can't run, or can't scream, or can't see. Anyone? Thank you, okay. They all represent that we are avoiding something or not admitting something to ourselves and others. Our dreams are windows into our subconscious, and sometimes, I don't know about you, I'd rather that window stay closed. I suppose the ultimate question is, do we really want to know what's coming at us in 2020? For Pharaoh, Joseph's predictions were helpful, actionable, and even life-saving. But what I think we often forget about all the prognostication is that Joseph didn't just give good news, he gave bad news too. Pharaoh was able to absorb the information, took it as truth, and acted upon it. I just wonder, would we all be that wise? When we make predictions of our own, I'd bet you a whole lot of Hanukkah gelt that they're almost always positive. I'll go back to school, I'll pay off my debt, I'll finally learn how to play guitar. Or more commonly, I'll fall in love, lose the same 20 pounds I lost last year, and fall into my dream job. I don't know anyone who says, in the coming year, I will be overwhelmed by debt, my dog will run away, and the most expensive appliance in my house will decide it has served its earthly purpose. When it comes to predicting our own futures, we all see the year to come through rose-colored glasses. I think this is because we love to think that we actually have some modicum of control over our lives, that we can prevent the small annoyances and even the big tragedies from knocking on our door if we just have the best of intentions. We hold on to the notion that we, in fact, create our own destinies, carpe diem and all of that. Joseph was living in a world that relied on patterns. The sun rises and the sun sets. The Nile floods at this time of year, rains come at that time of year, and the cycle repeats itself over and over in a predictable way. When Joseph tells Pharaoh that the cycle is about to come to a screeching halt, Pharaoh listens because he's being told that the old reliable patterns are not always so reliable, and he must be ready to survive until the patterns return again. He predicted the absence of routine, and that can be incredibly scary. One of the scariest things we all deal with is being thrown out of our own routines. You might be thinking, no, I love going on vacation and leaving my routine behind. Vacation doesn't count. I'm talking about the phone call you get at 2 a.m. that someone's in the hospital, or all of a sudden you have 4 inches of water in your dining room. Either one of these unforeseeable events sends us into a flurry of activity we never saw coming. We cancel appointments, we take time away from work, often spend money we didn't plan on spending, all in the hopes of returning to our predictable routine so that we can feel like the world is right again. We long for the boring day, for traffic, the same chicken dinner, for watching one show on Netflix, falling asleep on the couch, eventually going to bed and starting over the next day. It's pretty amazing how desirable a boring routine becomes when we are forced out of ours by things we never could have predicted in our wildest dreams. It would be a Hanukkah miracle if we could predict every twist and turn in our lives, but alas, even Joseph didn't see everything coming. I always found it interesting that Joseph could predict the years of plenty and the years of famine, but couldn't foresee the hundreds of years his own descendants would spend in Egypt in slavery. I guess he couldn't have predicted that in his wildest dreams. The bottom line is this: there are times when knowing the future is helpful, and other times when knowing the future can be scary and paralyzing. I have learned a lot in the past 16 years of my own life, and for me, perhaps the most important takeaway is that even if I knew some of those things were coming, I know now I probably couldn't have stopped them. There is prevention, but when push comes to shove, life happens. It's not time to ask why. It's kind of time to say what now. So if we don't know what 2020 holds for us, we can do what we always do. Shore up our inner strength, make sure we have a loving family and community supporting us, and as Rabbi later told us on Rosh Hashanah, we need to live the dream every day. And that means something different to everyone. On Wednesday, 3 generations of my family made cupcakes and soup and ate the first meal, Chinese food of course, in our new kitchen. My heart felt peaceful, and I took pictures so I could capture those totally mundane moments that were more precious than I can ever express. I thank God for those moments and for that small amount of time, let go of the what ifs and what will I do when. For once, I just was, no looking backward or ahead. As we celebrate Shabbat and the 6th night of Hanukkah together, let's praise the boring and glorify the routine. Let's bless the ones who are with us on the couch when nothing is going on, and the ones who are with us when life gives us too much to bear. On this night of Shabbat and Hanukkah miracles, I won't make any predictions, but I will offer a prayer. May we all have the gift of our own boring routines with the people that we love in safety and prosperity. And let us say, Amen.